Last year, Cadbury Fingers and I started our work together on the Sign Me Fingers Big and Small campaign in partnership with National Deaf Children's Society. Cadbury Donut Fingers are made when everyone comes together. But for many people, these moments can be quite isolating as we find ourselves trying to piece bits of the conversation together. We set out to get people learning British Sign Language with everyday phrases so more of us can feel included in the conversation. And just like that, the campaign created awareness of my superpower. I'm so excited to announce that this year I get to continue the partnership with Cadbury Fingers as they have come on board to help me launch the first ever series of Superpowers with Tasha. Together, we want more people to share their own superpowers so more of us can feel included. As well as providing the best studio snack for me and my guests, getting to work with Cadbury Fingers again means we will be reminding you regularly to keep learning a little BSL via the Sign Me Fingers Hub. You can even learn, would you like a snack? And my answer every time, yes. Head to signmefingers.cadbury.co.uk to start your BSL journey. Hey everyone, welcome back to my podcast, Superpowers with Tasha. This podcast is all about celebrating people with amazing differences and empowering stories. Today we've got an incredible guest. She was on a TV show called The Traitors last year. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. To this day, she continues to change people's perceptions on dwarfism and an amazing advocate for that. So I want you to welcome the amazing Meryl Williams.
Hi guys. Hi, thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for being here. I'm so excited to talk to you.
No, I'm so excited too.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. The sun's out today, isn't it?
Yes, I know. It's so much hotter than Scotland, so I'm loving it. Just see me in a bikini or something.
I feel like as soon as it hits like 19 degrees, everyone's just in like bikini, shorts, tops out. It's like walking around, beer in their hands and stuff. I feel like typical UK weather, isn't it?
Definitely. It's like summertime. In Scotland, it's like 10 degrees and everyone's running around tops off. So it's a bit different here, which is good.
So you're originally from Scotland then?
I'm originally from South Africa. So I was born in South Africa and I moved over when I was 6. I lived in Essex with my mom, and then we moved up from Essex to Edinburgh, Scotland.
Wow, so, that's amazing.
Travelled around.
That's amazing. That's such a big transition coming from South Africa to the UK. Do you remember much about coming over?
Yeah, so my dad still lives there in South Africa and all my family still live there. So I go back about once or twice a year. But yeah, me and my mum just moved over with literally 2 suitcases when I was 6. So just for a better life with my condition and stuff and better health care. And yeah, so I always go back. It's quite good. It's always my original home, but I love living here.
I still need to go. So I went to Cape Town for like literally 4 days for a shoot, but I feel like I didn't really get to fully see it. Yeah, South Africa for what it is. I've heard like it's
you need to do it, like safaris, you need to do everything on the bucket list.
Yeah, so like, Andrew, come on.
Let's go. Let's take it all off. No, I definitely recommend.
Yeah, I definitely will. But so obviously let's talk a bit about you. So growing up, you know, you're born with dwarfism, right? What's the condition called? I tried to say it earlier, but my pronunciation can be a bit hard.
Oh no, I can't even pronounce it sometimes. So there's different types of dwarfism, and I have achondroplasia. I can't even spell it either. But this is the most common type of dwarfism. So it affects my arms and my legs. It basically means that they're shorter than everyone else's, but my torso and the top part is average height. So it's like affects 1 in 25,000 births. And it was just a fluke. Like my mum and dad are both average height. All my family members are all average height, and it just was this a genetic like mutation? I can't really say that word well, but it was that caused the dwarfism.
Yeah. So how was that for you, like growing up then? Like, was it in terms of, because I was born into a hearing family, so they couldn't understand
how you feel,
the struggles and the feelings that you go through. So I can imagine you kind of experienced similar in that way. So how was that for you in that aspect?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think as well, until someone's as us, they don't really understand us. So my mom, for instance, would put things in different bits that she could reach and I couldn't. So, I mean, I had a normal upbringing. I'm an only child, and we moved over, obviously, to the UK just for better healthcare. South Africa wasn't the best at that time for my condition. But yeah, I think like the schooling I was really fortunate with school. I wasn't like bullied or anything, which is really good. Not that it's like a lucky thing, but I know people with my condition do experience bullying, but it's more on the day-to-day basis. Like if I go out, I feel like with someone with a difference, it's always noticeable. People always stare or point, or people are confused. And I think if people don't see someone, like they can maybe go their whole life without seeing someone with dwarfism, then they're kind of like taken back.
Yeah.
So in that day, it still affects. But I feel like with myself and yourself, we're very adaptable. We can always adapt in different situations.
Yeah.
And I've like, you know, someone who's just completely, totally fine will never really fully understand, if you get me.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like there's so many stereotypes, especially within like disabilities and you know, so many stereotypes being deaf. Like I always get comments like, oh, so how do you drive then if like, I did a cochlear implant on my right ear if you can't hear? And I'm like, there's the way, like you said, it's about being adaptable and you make those changes for yourself. So there's any stereotypes around dwarfism?
Yeah, I think as well, like the same with the driving, like I drive with my hands and then a lot of people just automatically assume that I can't drive. And then a lot of times, like I'm really fortunate my gran alters all my clothes, so I don't shop in children's clothing sizes. So I can just shop the same as everyone else. So everyone's always like, oh, but you're wearing kids' clothes. I'm like, no, I wear like if you've got a Zara top on, I've got a Zara top on. Like, you know, we can just wear the exact same. And I think as well, people just automatically assume things. They just think, you know, as well with my condition, there's a lot of people in like pantomimes and stuff. And I think that's where the whole hilarity comes from. So when I'm out in public and stuff, people often point or they'll laugh because they've seen someone in a pantomime doing something with the same condition. Right. So they think it's like all of a hysterical thing. But I think just showing people like my Instagram and like TikTok how I live a day-to-day life and they can relate so much more than they think they can. Yeah. I think people are quite taken back because they often think, oh no, she can't do this. And I'm like, no, I can. I just do it a different way. You know, I can still do the same thing, but just not the same way as maybe you can or someone else can.
No, definitely. So, that's so true. And I think there's this thing I saw about no Strictly Come Dancing. Oh, yes. And I saw that they might, you know, have someone in a wheelchair. Yeah. The amount of comments I saw, like in the comment section being like, well, how are they going to dance if they're in a wheelchair? Yeah. And it's like,
well, they'll figure it out.
Wheelchair dancing's been around for so many years.
Exactly.
And people just don't have that open mentality to kind of be like, it's amazing that actually the TV industry is breaking boundaries and bringing down stigmas around disabilities. And obviously you went on the Traitors. So how did you feel knowing that you're going to go on the show?
I was really excited. I didn't really fully understand, you know, I think because the show had never been released before, I didn't know how big it was going to be. So I kind of didn't really set my expectations that high. But I was like, it's still an amazing experience. And then when I obviously did everything, I was like, this is incredible. You know, I did things that I never thought I'd be able to do. Like all the challenges, a lot of times people are like, but you didn't do that. I was like, no, I did every single challenge at the exact same time. I didn't have like an extra starting time or extra minutes. I did it the same as everyone else. Yeah. And yeah, it was amazing. And I think as well, like with my condition and stuff, it's good to show people with differences. It would have been just a boring show if everyone's standing all the same, wearing the same, you know, there's no one feels represented. And I feel like even if someone doesn't, even anyone with disabilities will feel like, oh, they're being represented because it's highlighting that people can with disabilities do everything the same as everyone else, just maybe not the same way. But yeah, it was really, really cool. I mean, I loved doing the challenges. I loved getting buried alive. I was like, I'll do anything.
I love that.
And it's a BBC, so I was like, you'll be the safest person ever, so you're not going to get in harm's way.
I think it's so great to see much more representation, like you said, being shown on TV, and it's like, it's about time, like normalising it. Like even me going on the show, people were so shocked, and I was like, it should be normal.
It should be normal. It shouldn't be a first time.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially for the 26, like, you know, we're 2023 and it's now just like recently started moving. And I feel like as well, like disabilities weren't shown anywhere like years ago. It was just unheard of. Yeah. And that's why when people were different, they were so like, oh, it's amazing because no one had ever seen that. Whereas I feel like we're educating, definitely. And it's good because it would just be a boring life if everyone was the same. That's what I always say.
Yeah, so, that's so true. And I think it's all about celebrating you. And I always say it doesn't define me, but it's a part of me that's something that's a bit unique and special or different. And it's about embracing that. And like you use your platform so well for that. And I love the little things on TikTok that you do. And it's like, it's great because I feel like TikTok's become the place now where education, it's quite educational now. Like I see more representation, and I see so many people talk about being more open, and that's great to see. And I feel like the world's starting to now not be so close-minded.
Yes, no, I agree. And I think people want to just sometimes know. So I feel like if they ask in a respectful way, I'm always fine to answer any questions, because I think a lot of the times people are just like, want to be educated, they're a bit curious, so I feel like once I answer that, they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So if they see someone who's a little bit different, they won't make a big deal because they're like, oh no, but I watched someone on, you know, social media and I know how they did that, or oh, I've seen that. But yeah, definitely. And I think as well, TikTok is like, a good platform to just show. It's like educate as well, and people can just watch and learn themselves, if you get me.
Yeah.
And I always say to use your difference to make a difference. You know, it's something that we have that makes us stand out from everyone else, that we use it in a good way.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's like, do you deal with negative comments on your social media? Like, do you get that quite a lot?
Yeah, so so obviously before before the show, I had like the odd comments and stuff like that. I had Instagram, but it wasn't really that like, you know, I wasn't really in the public eye in a sense. And then obviously after the show and then like at the end of the stage, I did receive lots of comments. But you know, when you go looking for them, because I was so curious, and then I was like quite taken back, and I was like, oh, and then I just had to just disconnect myself. I always just think, I don't know that person. They're not saying it directly to me. They don't know me. Because I wanted to reply back, and my friends, I always say they're like my bodyguards. They're always like, oh no, I want to say something. I'm like, no, just don't say anything. And then I just ignore it. But it was hard at first. I don't know about yourself, but it's hard to just bite your tongue sometimes. And I always think as well, it's like, it's not fair, because no one would say that to just a normal able-bodied person. They wouldn't say like critique, and I understand sometimes people do, but I think when you've got a different or disability and they pinpointing to that exact, it does hurt. But I just try to just like disconnect myself. But and I think they don't know me, and sometimes people just say hurtful things because they are not really feeling themselves or whatever. So definitely.
It is definitely hurtful. I think people forget we're also human.
Yes.
Like people sometimes see us in a different light, like, oh, they're not going to be hurt by what I say.
Yes.
It's like, actually, we will. We're exactly the same. Like, everyone's equal. And when I came out the show, I experienced ableism, and it's like, at first I was like, I really wanted to just
go fast.
Just go in and just be like, oh. But then my parents are like, Tash, like, they're literally like Karens behind screens.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
They've got like 0 followers, and like that's
fake
how
accounts.
that's how you got to think of it. And I kind of turned it into a positive. I don't know about you, but I used that negativity to push me even more to be like, okay, I'm going to do better for my community.
Yes.
And sometimes that's how I flip switch it to make it not so negative. But it's hard to ignore it sometimes. Like, if I see it, I'm just like, I just delete it.
Yeah, that's what I do. I delete and block. I think I've got like about 300 people on my block list on TikTok. I swear. I notice, and the worst part is I feel like people don't think they'll notice a comment, and I notice it straight away. And then I literally go in their thing and I delete and block. So my friend's like, I think you're like 350. I was like, yeah, I've generally blocked everyone. And then I'm like, I don't want them to see myself. If they're going to write something nasty, and I know you're meant to ignore it, but I was like, no, you can get blocked. So,
I agree. And sometimes I get annoyed that we block them. I'm like, well, what did you expect? Like, and sometimes what's actually funny is I sometimes reply to some with like a bit of sarcasm funny. And as soon as I reply to that comment, then they reply being like, oh, no, I love you, Tasha.
Yes,
like,
I've heard that.
I'm like, you just said something so horrible, and then now all of a sudden you're like, actually, no, I love you. It's because I caught that person out. Yeah. So it is crazy. Like, with social media, I feel like it's still got a long way to go in terms of the commenting and the hurtful messages. Like, it is a lot. It can be a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think as well, people, like, I understand, like, everyone gets it, but I think as well, people fully don't understand it until they've got, like, a disability, I feel, because a lot of times be like, but yeah, I had someone call me ugly, and I'm like, if they're just, like, an able-bodied normal person, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's not, like, the same when someone's pinpointing.
Yeah.
And I think as well, it's hard to disconnect yourself, and I feel like you have to be in that position and have it, and then you're like, okay, that's fine. So now I don't feel emotional when I see stuff.
Yeah.
But obviously, at the first couple of times I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, how can someone I didn't even think of the things people have said, if that makes sense. You know, some of the things people say, I was like, how do you even think of that, and why would you even say it? But I was like, you just do you.
Yeah. It is crazy like that. How people just go to keyboard and just type it.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
behind, you know, and I don't know what they want. Like, I think they just want reaction. I've had the same. Like, I've had, like, someone sent me 2 paragraphs on Instagram request messages, and I replied back with a question mark, and they replied the same, like, oh no, I didn't realize that you were going to do this, Meryl, I love you on the Traitors. And I was like, no, you can't. It was like, look at the messages before. I was like, you can't do that. Yeah. I just don't. I think people just want a reaction, or to know. I think they disconnect us with real people, in a sense. Anyone with, like, who's been on a show or is kind of on, like, a platform, they just disconnect you. It's not really real. But, which is hard.
Yeah. So, like, growing up for you, was, like, for me, I felt I was comparing myself quite negative to other people. Yes. I went to a normal high school. No one else in my school was deaf or hearing impaired, so I felt quite like I feel like as a teenager, you're trying to figure out who you are as well.
Yes.
It's like you're going through, like, so many hormones and everything. It's like, or I don't know, but I don't know for you, like, did you struggle in terms of trying to find your identity?
Yeah, I think as well, because all my friends are like average height. Like my mom kind of introduced me to the little people community through like RGAs and stuff,
Yeah.
which I went to a couple of times. But when I was with my friends, I kind of forgot I was little, but it was hard. I kind of went through the, like, I don't know if you went through it, like, why me? Like, it's not fair. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's always not fair. And I was like, I get that. It is life. But at the time, I was like, well, it's not fair that so-and-so is average height and they can just do whatever they want, but then I can't, you know.
Yeah.
So it was frustrating. And I think as well, even still now, it's hard not to compare yourself. Even though I'm a completely physically different person, but it's hard to be like, oh, I want to be that skinny. But then I know that I can't ever be that skinny because I've got little legs and I've got little arms, but it's so hard not to.
Yeah.
So I think it's just learning to love yourself and like accept yourself. It was something I definitely did struggle, especially at high school when everyone's going for like kind of the teenage years. But I feel like with a difference, it's 10 times worse.
Yeah.
You know, it's just harder. And I think as well, until like no one really understands you until they know. So I'd often, like, I've got a friend that lives quite close to me and she's got the same condition as me. So I often talk to her and I'll say, oh, like, you know, and she's like, oh, I can actually get you in that one. I'm like, oh, it feels so good to have someone that actually understands.
Yeah.
Whereas my mom and my friends were like, oh, yeah, yeah. And I'm like, no, you don't really understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's like kind of like dips and, you know, ups and downs kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely hard. And I think as well, it's just frustrating. You know, if you ever get frustrated because I'm like, if I'm trying to reach something, but I can't reach it, but there's no one here to help me, or if I'm in the shops, it gets like, or if I'm even out and I just get frustrated. But
Yeah.
you know, it's just life.
No, of course.
yeah.
That's nice that you had that friend to confide in, like when you were growing up. And
Yeah. What about yourself? Did you
yeah,
have
to have that same experiences.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, in a way, that's kind of your outlet. 'Cause
Yes.
like you said, you know, your parents don't have the same. It's kind of hard to
relate? Yeah.
explain. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, they're not getting it. So it's nice that you have that kind of
Yeah.
that side. That's, you know, someone there to be like, actually, yeah, I get you. Like,
Yeah.
100%. That's really nice to have. Like,
Yeah, no, I agree.
definitely.
And I was the same as yourself. Like, I went to mainstream high school. It was quite a rough high school, you know. It wasn't like very fancy. But I was like, do you know what? I never experienced anything like, you know, it was. I think as well, people automatically assume like, oh, you must have got bullied. I was like, no, like my high school wasn't very like, it wasn't fancy, but I like was totally fine the whole
Yeah.
way through. I think everyone just thought of me as Meryl, not like, oh, she's a little person, and which is really good.
Yeah.
Because I think as well, I think it would have been hard to have like negative high school experience and then negative like out of high school kind of. It would have been hard to have to deal with both.
Yeah.
But because I was quite fortunate with the high school, it was really good. And I've still friends with everyone from high school, which is quite good.
So you talked about quite a lot about your physical and, you know, not much more about your mentality. So obviously when you're getting those hurtful comments and like, how did you stay strong through it? Obviously you mentioned a little bit about, you know, but did it also affect you mentally?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think it was because it was a first proper time, and I think it's hard because there's no like real book to read. Like, oh, how do I deal with this? There's no. You have to just accept, and you have to go through your own journey. And some people were receiving negative comments on the show, and they were like, "I just delete them." I was like, "But they're not the same as the ones I'm getting," you know. But definitely, I just had to learn to disconnect myself. I definitely did struggle, and I was going looking for it. I don't know why. I was going on like this self-sabotage. I was typing into Twitter things that I knew that would come up, and I don't know why, because you know when you know you're looking for it, and I don't know, you know, or like I was going on TikTok and stuff, and then I realized that I actually do have the power. So I was, as I said, blocking and deleting, and I know my friends are like, but just ignore it. But I was like, no, because I don't even want their comment. They want their comment to be there so people can see it. I'm going to delete their comment because it's the whole point, and then block them. Just to like disconnect myself because I don't want the person to win, but then I also have to get to a point where I can just ignore them. It is definitely hard because obviously it's something that I obviously knew I was opening myself up for going onto the show, but I didn't realize some of the comments I would receive, and I was screenshotting a couple of them, but then I was going back and looking at them, but I was like reopening the same wound kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was definitely hard, but we had an amazing support system at the show, you know, the welfare and stuff, which was really good, and I could vent, and they would prepare me, and they kept on telling me to not look, and you know when someone tells you not to do something, you're still gonna, yeah, exactly, and they're like, just don't look, and I'm like, and then I go looking, and then I'm like, oh no, why did I look? But yeah, I definitely got upset, but I think it's definitely helped me like what's it called again? Build a thicker skin.
Yeah.
For now. So when I get other things or other comments on a day-to-day, I feel numb kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I just literally like block and delete. So that's it. So I don't feel emotional connections now, but I definitely did at the time. So I feel numb to the negative comments. It is harder if you get them face to face, because obviously face to face is a lot harder than like over like, you know, like a screen.
Do you experience that face to face?
Yeah. It's not about the show though. I think as well, in just in sense that like if I go out in public and stuff, I'll get pointed or I get laughed, or people will like not mock, but people haven't really seen someone with like dwarfism and stuff, so they're quite oh, I'm getting upset.
No, it's fine. It's all right. It's fine.
Sorry, I've got cold hands.
Right.
Yes. So I think as well, like people, it's the first time, so people don't know how to react, and I think there's not really that much education. So like I'll get the odd like, I understand children and stuff are a bit small, they don't understand. So I'll get like, mommy, why is she small and stuff, but I feel like the comments or like that'll happen on a day where you're just not really feeling that good anyway.
I'm getting emotional now.
Oh gosh. So sorry. So I think as well, like it's just like kind of like the nail, you know, it keeps on building. So like I was at Tesco's with my friend yesterday, and she was waiting in the car, and there was a group of like teenagers outside, and I was like, Tyler, I was like, I bet you £10 they'll point and stare, and she's like, no, they won't. And as soon as I got out of the car, it happened, and she was like, I get frustrated, Meryl, because I want to say something. I was like, it's not even worth it, you know, you just ignore it. So I think, or even when I'm walking down the street and stuff, so it is definitely something. That's why I went on the show, just to maybe stop people if they do, you know, see someone who's different, not to make it a big deal. Sorry, I didn't like mascara. It's probably going to be down.
Don't be sorry.
But yeah, I think that's why, the whole reason why I went on the show. And it is amazing because I get people recognising me from the show, which is fantastic, and I love it because I love to talk about the show and stuff. But I still receive it on the day-to-day basis, on the sense that people are still staring and pointing that maybe haven't watched the show or haven't seen someone. I've had people that are like, I've had a lady come up to me and she was like, I've never seen someone with your condition. I was scared of you. I was like, but why would you be scared of someone? And I think as well, with this condition, there's not really that understanding. What people say is quite actually offensive. You wouldn't say that with someone else with maybe a difference. You wouldn't go up to them and say I was scared, because I don't know how someone could be scared of another human being. And I was like, well, I won't hurt you, like I'm totally fine. So I think that's the reason why. But yeah, it is hard in the day-to-day. So that's why I think I have got a thicker skin for like the social media stuff, because I was like, it's on my phone. I can just turn off my phone and that just goes away. So I don't feel like the phone things affects me as much as like the day-to-day. So
no reason I got emotional is because like it hurts me that you have to go through that, and no one deserves that. Like no one ever deserves that. And I hope people that are watching and listening and go tell your friends, go tell your family what's right, what's not wrong. Like it's not okay to
make someone feel
feel little. And but Meryl, like you are amazing inside and out, and I don't, you know, it can be hard. Like, even when I'm out in public, sometimes I can hear people sniggering, laughing, and it's like, you kind of have to like, it's hard.
Focus. It was an emotional show, the podcast. It's hard because I think as well, like my friends, they just take the anger side because they're like, I'm so annoyed, but I'm like, but I was reacting. And I went on girls' holidays when I finished high school, and I went to Ayia Napa and I did Zante, and I think my friend punched someone every single night because it was just like, she's like, no one's going to say anything. And now we just get to the bit we just ignore, because I think people say things for a reaction. So if you just don't give them a reaction, then they're not getting what they want. And again, that's with social media as well. So when I block and delete, they're not getting the same reaction as they wanted to. But yeah, so I think it's just just definitely just people seeing people, and then people seeing them on TV, they're going to think, oh no, I'm not going to stare, or just people, I don't think people put each other, what's the word? They don't put other people in their shoes. Yeah, that's, if you can follow the way I've said it. So they wouldn't like it if it happened to them. So that's always my rule of book, is if you wouldn't want it done to you, then don't do it to anyone else.
Exactly.
So yeah. Okay,
it's fine. Like, there's definitely needs to be more education around it. And even I say in high school, I feel like it's not really taught in high schools. And I think that's kind of where it stems from. It's like, not many people know, like, even what cocker implant is, or like dwarfism and things like that. And it's like, if that was taught in school, I feel like it'd be such more acceptance. More acceptance. And people would understand more and be like, oh, okay. So like, and I feel like that's not taught. And obviously, when you come out of school and stuff, you're kind of open to a new world, like you know, reality. And I feel like that's kind of where it needs to change, I think, in my opinion. It's
like main source.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think as well with like, if they've not dealt with it on a day-to-day basis on their family life, then they won't ever see it until they do see someone who's different, and they're like, oh my gosh. And I understand, like, when you're curious, you do stare. But I think it's just like, as you said, like school, primary school, if it's like taught and they can answer the questions, and then when they do see someone, because I think I feel like the world has changed so much, which is amazing, but I also feel like sometimes it is so backwards in a sense. So it's like dealing with the problem at the root of the problem.
100%.
So, yeah.
And I'm sorry like you have to go through that, and it's like, but you are so strong, and I can see that, and you are making a change, and you've inspired so many people, like
same, you
being
too.
who you are, and just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Sorry for my mascara.
It's fine, honestly. It's like completely, you got me going. I know. So I can relate in some ways.
Yes, no, of course, because you've obviously experienced it. I think as well, talking to someone who's just like normal able-bodied, they don't fully understand until you've had that. And their friends like, but I've had a girl call me like a bitch, and I'm like, but not really the same. Like, you know,
when it's like a personal attack that we can't help. It's like,
and you can't do anything. And again, with the hearing of the people sniggering or laughing, and it's something like, you're not funny, you're not doing anything, like, and simple things. It always happens. I always say it always happens when you're already having a bad day anyway, and it's just like the nail on the head, like you're just like, oh yeah,
it's like
not today.
It's like, no, it's like, I get a lot of people, like literally even nowadays, like I do a lot of like social work, like not social work, social media work, like, you know, doing stories or like you know, talking kind of stuff, and I literally have people commenting like my TikToks being like, your voice is so annoying, like, because I can't help my voice, so I have speech therapy and stuff, so it's like, that still now hurts me.
You. And it's something you can't change, and it's like someone like, exactly the same, and you're like, but what does that do? Because I can't just click a switch.
I can't get a new voice box.
You know, exactly. And I'm so sorry that your voice, you know, that's what I always think when people say something, I'm like, just why do you have to voice your opinion? Like, my dad always says opinions are like arseholes, and everyone has them, and I always get annoyed because I think as well people say something knowing that you can't change it, but then it just adds something you're self-conscious about. And I think they find like something that you obviously are really sensitive about, and they just like
dagger it.
Yes,
but I think,
I agree.
I've like, you know, like I said, keep doing you. And
no, you're doing amazing too, because I actually googled you, and I was like, because I like to understand everyone. I follow you on social media anyway, but I wanted to find, you know, I wanted to understand, because if you ever spoken to someone and you're like, you have no idea, you're just like, this is no idea. So I was like, no, I wanted to find out. But you were the first person, and I think as well, even on Love Island, which is an amazing show, but it was just to show diversity in a show that's not really showing diversity. So that was, you broke ground, is true.
Thank you.
So yes, I feel like I'm interviewing you now. We switched.
Love it.
You have to watch this in slow mo because I've talked so fast.
It's fine, honestly.
Okay. Whoever's watching this, I'll be like, jeez, I'm going to sit in a dark room after this.
Honestly, you're not. You're in a good pace.
Okay, that's good. Good.
Obviously, in the TV industry and like even any kind of world, there's not many role models to look up to. Was there anyone for you to look up to?
Yeah, so I used to be obsessed with Victoria Beckham when I was younger. I don't know why I got my hair cut like her. But I think, you know, I used to just look up to different people. I didn't really have an idol, you know, because there wasn't anyone with my condition really in this, you know, the spotlight. There was a male actor in America that I was like, oh, well, he's doing acting, and it was just normal acting, and he had my condition. But yeah, it was just everyone, I think, as well, because I knew there was a niche for this, like for my condition, for this industry. But I just looked up to different people I related to. But
so do you feel like there wasn't enough representation of dwarfism back in the day?
Oh yeah, there was not really anything. So I feel like I didn't have like not an idol, but like someone I could be like, oh, I can relate to in a sense. So that's why I always wanted to become that, if that makes sense. That representation.
100%.
Yes.
And do you feel like there is more representation now?
Yes, no, definitely, because I know people like Ellie Simmons, and there's Denise Burke, and there's like all different people with achondroplasia, dwarfism that are in the, you know, the spotlight, or even on social media and stuff. I'm finding people like, oh my god, you have the same condition as me, and I feel like I have to follow them, and I'm like, why aren't they following me back? And I'm like, they should realise that we're the same. But yeah, so I've definitely seen a lot more, which is really, really good, and it's good to show that, you know, because the more people the better, and it's good that everyone's on a way that they can, like, people can be like, oh, okay, they've seen one person, oh, I can see another person. It's not like just a one-off, which is really good.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like I've definitely seen way more, like Ellie Simmons, like she was on Strictly, and I just loved the way that she just went for it.
Yeah, she just went. That's what I was saying.
And the thing that annoyed me obviously was comments that she got, and I was just like, like people are not getting it, and like she was breaking boundaries, and
the first person with dwarfism on Strictly, you know, and it's like, I think as well, but then you have to just realize that sometimes people don't like change, and I feel like you know, like society sometimes doesn't accept change, so when they're seeing something out from the norm, they're always like, no, this, you know, all of this, and give it negative. But I think you just have to keep on like pressing, and then they're like, accept that this is the new change now.
Exactly.
We're in the 2020, like 2023. We're doing this.
I know, it's not 1980 anymore.
I know, exactly. Like, come on, guys. We're like up to date now.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
And it's good, like, even, you know, on like, you know, clothing brands and stuff, they're more they're more adaptable and stuff, which is really good. And you're seeing different people, not just the same person, in all the, like, you know, fashion magazines and stuff. So it's good. So I feel like the world is slowly coming around.
100%. Like I see, like even like TV commercial ads that I saw.
Yeah.
Do you even know Lucy Edwards?
Oh yes.
She was in a Pantene hair advert on TV, and I was like, that's just so amazing to like see more representation, even on like fashion, beauty, like makeup and things like that. So I feel like I'm praying in like 10 years time it will be a world where it'll be so different to how it is now.
Yeah, it's more acceptance. It's not a big deal. It's like, oh, that's really interesting. It's not like, oh my goodness. And
like, oh my God, like, no way.
I know, and then they just automatically assume you can't do anything. I'm like, no, I can.
Yeah.
So no, I definitely think that. So it's good. It's slowly but surely, but at least it's happening. That's what I always say.
Definitely.
And it's good that, I think it's quite daunting when you do have a difference to go and put yourself out there, because you know that you're going to receive some negative, but just to ignore it. And that's what I would say.
Yeah.
It's hard to say it. You know, my friends used to always say that too. And I'll be like, it's easier said than done.
It's true. It's true. What's the best advice you could give to someone that maybe hasn't got the confidence with dwarfism, that, you know, is struggling to accept? You know, what advice could you give to them, the people that are watching? And
so I always say to use your difference to make a difference. You know, that's like, you've been given this for a reason, so you should always use it to your advantage, and it's you. What makes you. I always say I wouldn't be me if it wasn't for the way I look. You know, I wouldn't have the same personality maybe if I was someone else. You know, so just use your difference to make a difference, and just keep on trying, and don't compare yourself. I feel like that's the biggest thing that I'm still learning. So I'll take my own advice too.
Definitely, I think it's all about, you know, it will be hard sometimes. But I feel like I always say I got given a gift. I see it as a gift, and it's to do what we're doing now. Is using our platform, and, you know, people that struggle with your superpower, like, just don't give up. Like, keep pushing through.
Yeah, definitely. Because I feel like as well, it's so easy to give up and just like let in, and just to, I always say I use like negative to give me motivation kind of thing, like negative comments or people saying, I never take no for an answer. If someone says no, I'm asking the wrong person. I always go to someone else. I'm like, no one ever says no. So I think as well, just to keep on trying and just, you know, fight through. It's harder though. It's easier said than done. People are going to be like, oh, that's so easy to say. But I promise you it does. Like, I'm still doing it now. So just everyone's still doing it. It's not.
Yeah, it's a journey. It's like,
you're not plain sailing.
Yeah, 100%. But it's worth it in the end.
Definitely.
So what's your next goals? Like, do you have any goals that you want to achieve next? Or like, what do you want to do in life now?
Okay, so, well, big question. I write like my 10-year plan, my 5-year plan.
I love it. Tell me everything.
So so basically, I would like to get more maybe on TV again. I think definitely showing with my condition and stuff in a different aspect as what it has been previously shown on TV. So definitely again to show that. Anything really. I was like, I'll go and I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here. I'll go on anything. I'm like,
so good
no, I'll just not do the eating challenge. I've gone vegan for like a month. So maybe not eating any cockroaches. And I would like to maybe go into the industry of like, because I struggle so much with high heels. So I have to pay like £200 for a pair of high heels because I'm a size 1. So maybe go into the whole trying to get more accessible footwear for people with my condition, but more affordable. Nice, I'd love to do that. And maybe clothing as well, and TV. So I've got different, you know,
that'd
things.
be like, but amazing. I didn't know that you had to do it. That's quite £200.
Yeah, genuinely. So it's a website called prettysmallshoes.com, but they're nice, but they're not even like the fashion ones. You know, I used to always get frustrated because my friends would go to like, I don't know, like ASOS and buy a £10 pair of heels, and I'd have to pay like £200 for the exact same pair. So so it is quite frustrating in that sense. So definitely making something more affordable, and also fitting people with my condition's feet. Just because we've got broader feet but smaller. A lot of people are like, oh, but you can buy cheap trainers trainers. So I was like, yeah, but I can buy like £20 trainers, but I have to pay £200 for heels. So not really the best.
Yeah.
And then I am really fortunate. My gran, she alters all my clothes.
Okay.
So I can, as I said, I can shop anywhere, but I would like to maybe do something, I don't know, like, because there's not really a big market in it, but to maybe make more clothing accessible for people and maybe showing people with dwarfism in the kind of like limelight. That's my thing. I've got big goals, but I'm still at the very beginning.
No, you're definitely achieving them. I think,
thank you.
like you said, like there's such a big gap in that area.
Yeah.
You can 100% achieve that.
Yeah.
And accessibility is so important, and it's so important for the community to feel included. So I feel like go for it.
Thank you. Yeah.
I reckon you kill it.
Well, thank you.
100%.
I'm always like a person that needs instant gratification. I'm like, no, it takes time. I'm like so impatient. I'm like, okay, but I'm like, no, I have to take a while. But but it's definitely good to see anyone like, you know, with a difference on TV or even like doing things that's good, because it just keeps on heightening and like reinforcing that we are the same as everyone else. So
100%. I can imagine you got a lot of positivity though. Like when you came out, like positivity definitely must have outweighed the negative. Like you're representing a whole community. Like did you come out to also love as well as, you know?
Yeah, I just ignored the negative. But yeah, lots of love. I think as well, I think everyone was just like, I think it was good to show the BBC did an amazing job of like even the demographics they showed. You know, they had everyone from the ages of 21 to like 74. So like it was amazing, and all different ethnicities and all different disabilities, some visible, some non-visible. So I think as well it was a good show just to show that, like, you know, I'd love all shows like that because it's so good. But yeah, the love was definitely there, which is really good.
It's good to hear, because I was like, the better being because you killed it. So.
Thank you. I mean, I wasn't very good at the show, but I got lots of love. I think I didn't really fully understand the whole thing.
I mean, you won.
I know, by default, basically. And they were like, Meryl, you won being Meryl, because I had no idea the whole way. And Aaron and Hannah, they were the final as well, the winners too. And they were like, we should have said at the end, oh no, we're going to like, Meryl, voting you out. And then we've done 50-50. I was like, no, guys. I was like, no. I still went through all that.
Yeah, definitely. Looked amazing.
I might go back for round 2. Now I know what to do.
Definitely, it should be like an all-star one.
Yeah, I said that, but they didn't really pick me up on that one. But I told them to bring us back. They said, no. Another chance.
No, I love it. I mean, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like I have one question I always ask at the end. So, obviously, I call it my superpower, my disability, and for me, it's just because I feel like the word disability kind of makes me feel a bit segregated, but that's me personally. But I want to ask you, what would you call your superpower? It could be anything. It could literally be like mind reading or like things like that. Like, what would you say is your superpower?
I think maybe adapting. Like, not in a weird way. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, so I will use, so say for instance, this was out of reach, then I will figure out how to get that. So I'll use my phone, and then, you know, I find things to work away things. So probably adapting. That's really cool. Put me in a room and I can try and figure out how to get out or something like that.
That's cool.
Yeah. I don't know if that was a superpower, but yeah.
No, that is, because it's like you've adapted to your life, you're adapted to, you know, the way you live and stuff. So 100%.
Yeah, like when I fill my car up at Tesco's, they always have the thing higher, like, you know, the key button, so I have to use my phone and a pen, and then I can type my pen in and type my PIN code. So I always try and figure it out. So yeah,
I love that.
The will, there's a way.
That's a good superpower. I love
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Meryl.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to meet you as well. So yes.